Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Rohit Wellington. Let's begin with our top story. Prime Minister Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and the three service chiefs paid their tributes to General Bipin Rawat, his wife and the 11 other personnel who died in Wednesday's chopper crash. The 13 bodies were flown back to Delhi on C-130J Super Hercules aircraft. From 11 a.m. on Friday, the bodies of General Bipin Rawat and his wife will be kept at their Delhi home for family, friends and the public to pay their final respects. The funeral procession will begin at 2 p.m. The funeral itself has been scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Brar Square Crematorium at Delhi Cant, where Brigadier Lider's funeral would have been held at 9 in the morning. Arvind Gunasekar reports from the Palam Airport in Delhi.
During this Shraddhanjali ceremony, the chief of all these three services, including Army Chief, Navy Chief and Air Force Chief, they also paid their final respect, after which the mortal remains of all these 13 people, including General Bipin Rawat, have been taken to the Army base camp, because not all the mortal remains have been positively identified. So what we are hearing is that as of this moment, only 4 bodies have been positively identified, including General Bipin Rawat, his wife Madhulika Rawat, and also his advisor Brigadier Leader, and also Lance Nayak Vivek Kumar. So only 4 mortal remains have been positively identified. So for the remaining identification, the mortal remains have been shifted to the Army base camp. Regarding the mortal remains of General Bipin Rawat and along with his wife Madhulika Rawat, both the bodies will be shifted to their residence in the Kamraj Marg tomorrow around 9 a.m. from the Army base camp. From 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow, it will be open for the public to pay their respect, to pay their homage, where we can expect all the senior political leaders across the spectrum and also political executives to pay their respect, after which the final the funeral procession will start from his residence at 2 p.m. and the funeral has been scheduled with full military honors at 4 p.m. tomorrow.
And talking about the crash, here's what we know so far. The ill-fated chopper crashed 20 minutes after takeoff. Sulur Air Base lost contact with the helicopter at 12:08 p.m. The black box has now been recovered and that data will be examined. The Air Force has ordered a high-level tri-services probe into this entire accident. Group Captain Varun Singh is the sole survivor of this crash. Group Captain Singh has been airlifted to Bengaluru's Air Force Hospital. And on Friday, General Rawat will be cremated with full military honours. Now, the video of a helicopter flying near the Nilgiris in Tamil Nadu and vanishing into the mist has emerged. The video, tweeted by news agency ANI and sourced from locals, apparently captures the last moments of the Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 chopper before it crashed into the mountains. The black box that holds the key to the most crucial last moments has been retrieved. My colleague Shrija gets us this report from the crash site.
Moments before, the Indian Air Force chopper with the Chief of Defence and 13 others on board slammed into a hillside in Kunnur. This amateur video shows the Mi-17 helicopter enter a cloud. The villagers you see here ask one another if there has been a crash. Shiv Kumar, a contractor who was visiting his brother, was close by to the crash site. He says he spotted General Bipin Rawat and rushed to his help.
இந்த லொகேட் பண்ணும்போது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒருத்தர் வந்து உயிருக்கு போராடிட்டு இருந்தார். அவரை வந்து அடையாளம் காட்டணும். அடையாளம் பார்த்துட்டு சரி யார் எங்கே, ஏன்னா வேறு எல்லா பசங்களும் போக முடியல, என்னால் தனியாக தான் அங்கே உள்ளே போக முடிஞ்சு, ரிலாக்ஸாக இருங்க நாங்கள் ரெஸ்கியூ பண்ணிடுறோம் அப்படின்னா தான் அவர் திரும்பி பார்த்து நான் சொன்னதை அப்சர்வ் பண்ணி திரும்பி பார்த்துட்டு வாட்டர் ப்ளீஸ் அப்படின்னாரு. கத்தியும் வாங்கிட்டு வந்துட்டு இந்த பெட்ஷீட் இதெல்லாம் கொண்டு வந்து அவரை தூக்கி நாங்கள் அந்த சீட்டில் பெட்ஷீட்டில் உட்கார வச்சு மேலே வந்து ரெஸ்கியூ பண்ணி தூக்கிட்டு வந்துட்டோம்.
The lone survivor, Group Captain Varun Singh, is fighting for his life at a military hospital in Bengaluru, where he was shifted this morning. He continues to fight for his life. 24 hours after the crash, the Indian Air Force investigators have been able to recover the flight data recorder of the chopper, which will help them map out just what went wrong.
हेलीकॉप्टर ने कल 11:48 पर सुलूर एयरबेस से अपनी उड़ान भरी, जिसे 12:15 पर वेलिंगटन में लैंड करना था। सुलूर एयरबेस के एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल ने लगभग 12:08 पर हेलीकॉप्टर से अपना कांटेक्ट खो दिया।
At the Madras Regimental Centre in Wellington, the armed forces personnel who were killed were honoured before their mortal remains were moved to Sulur Air Base, from where they have been flown to Delhi. Through the journey, the motorcade was showered with petals. In Wellington, with camera person Kumar, Shrija for NDTV.
There were 11 army personnel apart from General Bipin Rawat and his wife Madhulika Rawat, who died in Wednesday's chopper crash. In fact, their families are in mourning.
Eleven others, apart from Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat and his wife Madhulika Rawat, died in Thursday's chopper crash. Their families struggling to cope with the tragedy. At her home in Uttar Pradesh's Agra, Sushila Chauhan recounts her last conversation with her son, Wing Commander P.S. Chauhan, on Tuesday night. He was the pilot in command of the helicopter. He is survived by his wife, a 12-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son.
टीवी तो 1:30 बजे खोला था, खाना खा के मैं सीधी वहीं जाती हूँ तो टीवी खोलती हूँ, टीवी खोल लेती हूँ तो फिर मुझे नींद आ जाती है, मैं ऐसी चला छोड़ देती हूँ। फिर उठी हूँ तो मैंने देखा है तो उस पर जब भी देख के सोई थी मैंने, वापस जब कभी भी आ ही नहीं रहा था कुछ भी वैसे, मैं सो गई हूँ। फिर मुझे मालूम नहीं, फिर उठी हूँ तो उन्हीं के पापा का फोन आया है।
ससुर साहब का लास्ट राखी पे आया था, 31 साल बाद उसने अपनी बहनों से राखी बंधवाई थी। हर बहनों का कोई काम भी की कह देते तो वो हर काम करवा के जाता था अपनी बहनों का।
Lance Nayak Sai Teja from Chittoor district of Andhra Pradesh had made a video call to his wife Shyamala 4 hours before the accident, informing her of his travel plans with the Chief of Defence Staff. Sai Teja was General Bipin Rawat's personal security officer. 27-year-old Teja has a 5-year-old son, Mukshagna, and a 3-year-old daughter, Darshini, perhaps too young to realize the enormity of the tragedy. Sai Teja had last visited home 3 months ago during Ganesh Chaturthi. His mother, Bhuvneshwari, had encouraged both her sons to join the army. Teja's younger brother, Mahesh, is serving the army in Sikkim.
బ్యాక్ ఉండి నన్ను ముందుకు నెట్టుతా ఉన్నాడు. నేను ఆర్మీకి రావడానికి కారణం కూడా మా అన్న. ఎందుకు మా అన్న ముందు ఆర్మీకి సెలెక్ట్ అయినాడు, మా అన్న సెలెక్ట్ అయిన తర్వాత మళ్ళీ నేను సెలెక్ట్ అయినాను. నేను సెలెక్ట్ అయింది కూడా సెంటర్ భర్తీ.
36-year-old junior warrant officer Pradeep Arakkal from Thrissur in Kerala was at home just 3 weeks ago to look after his hospitalized father. He returned to work just last week. He is survived by his wife and 2 children, 7 and 3 years old. Pradeep's father is still on oxygen support at home and has not been informed of his son's death. Pradeep had actively participated in flood rescue operations in Kerala in 2018. Immense grief for the families of those who died in the chopper crash, but with messages of support from thousands of people across the country. With Naseem Ahmed, Uma Sudhir and Sneha Koshi, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
The other big story, the farmers have declared victory and said that they will be leaving Delhi's borders starting Saturday. This after they say that the government has conceded to their demands on the retraction of all cases filed against farmers, their inclusion in the Committee on MSP Guarantee and consultations on the electricity bill. Meher Pandey has this report.
Celebrations at the Singhu border after the government sent a letter officially accepting almost all of the farmers' demands. All cases against farmers and their supporters will be retracted. MSP Guarantee Committee will include the Sanyukt Kisan Morcha leaders and there will be consultations on the electricity bill. The government will give compensation to families of over 700 farmers who died during the agitation and there will be no liability or fines for stubble burning. Once the government's commitments came to them, stamped and official, the farmers announced the end of the 15-month-long protest.
बहुत खुशी है, बहुत ज़्यादा खुशी है, बता ही नहीं सकते हम लफ्जों में। बाहर जाने को दिल नहीं करता, जहाँ का जो लोगों ने प्यार दिया, जो जहाँ हमें समर्थन मिला।
Already, their temporary homes are being dismantled, but farm leaders say that this is a suspension of their agitation and there will be a review in a few days.
Today we have decided to suspend the agitation. We have not decided to end it. We will have to see the assurances given by the government, how much they have been fulfilled.
The government has constituted a committee. We don't even know what that committee would be. Its mandate seems to be somewhat mixed and confused.
क्या मिशन यूपी हम लोग का चलता रहा, आचार संहिता लग जाएगी उस दिन बताएंगे। मिशन यूपी अभी समझौते के आधार पे अभी सरकार को काम करने दो।
There will be massive celebration for the next 2 days and also going forward we will slowly start to leave Delhi's borders from Saturday. But this is not the end. The movement will continue.
All right, to Uttar Pradesh now, where shocking police brutality has been caught on camera. A man with a child in his arms was assaulted by cops in UP's Kanpur Dehat district. This assault happened outside district hospital in Kanpur Dehat's Akbarpur town. Cops hit that man with lathis and tried to even snatch his child. The victim is reportedly an employee of the district hospital.
ये आदमी अक्सर न्यूसेंस क्रिएट करता रहता है। 4th क्लास का सरकारी कर्मचारी है जिला अस्पताल का। जिला अस्पताल परिसर में ये काफी बड़ी बिल्डिंग का निर्माण हो रहा है। एक अस्पताल की नई बिल्डिंग बन रही है तो उसमें से मिट्टी निकाल के कहीं और डाली जा रही है। तो जो मिट्टी डालने वाली कंपनी है उससे ये आदमी उसको जाके डराता धमकाता है कि तुम मुझे इसमें से पैसा दो, ये मिट्टी जहाँ मैं दूंगा वहां डालो। असली में मुद्दा उसका ये था। उसी चीज को लेके इस आदमी ने आज अस्पताल की ओपीडी बंद करवा दी, सारे मरीजों को वहां से भगा दिया और ओपीडी के मेन गेट पे ताला डाल के बैठ गया। वही मरीजों को इकट्ठा कर लिया। अब जब वहाँ खबर पहुंची, डीएम साहब ने कहा, एसएसपी साहब ने कहा जाने के लिए, तो सभी लोग मौके पे पहुंचे। तो जैसे ही फोर्स मौके पे पहुंची तो ये जो आदमी था जो अस्पताल का मेन गेट है उसे बंद करने के लिए भागा और वहां से मरीजों को भगाने के लिए तो पुलिस वाले भी इसके पीछे भाग के गए। उसी में इसने इंस्पेक्टर कोतवाली जो आपको उस वीडियो में भागते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं, उस आदमी ने इनके हाथ में काट लिया। तो उसी में फिर उस आदमी को धक्का मुक्की करके उन्होंने गाड़ी में डाला।
बस मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि क्या आपको ऐसा नहीं लगता कि क्योंकि एक बच्चा एक शख्स के हाथ में था, चाहे उसका जो भी क्राइम रहा हो, और आपकी इतनी पुलिस फोर्स थी, तो थोड़ा सा क्या एक्सेसिव फोर्स नहीं यूज हुआ यहाँ पे?
बिल्कुल वो सही नहीं हुआ। वो बच्चे जिस आदमी के हाथ में था उसके बाद ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए था।
तो क्या आप कोई एक्शन ले रहे हैं, कुछ रेप्रिमांड कर रहे हैं, कम से कम कुछ कर रहे हैं?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, इसमें देखते हैं क्या कार्रवाई होती है। अभी वरिष्ठ अधिकारी के संज्ञान में मामला आया है, जल्दी इसमें कार्रवाई होगी।
Shifting focus to Kerala now, where bird flu has been confirmed in Alappuzha district. Rapid response teams have been constituted by the animal husbandry team to cull the ducks, hens in the affected panchayats. Let's go across to Sneha Koshi for more on this. Sneha, what more details can you share with us?
Well, Rohit, this is for the second time this year that the bird flu or the avian influenza has been confirmed in Kerala. This has been confirmed in Tagari Panchayat of the Kuttanad region in Alappuzha. Of course, the confirmation has come after samples were sent to Bhopal's National Institute of High Security Animal Disease. Now, there's been rapid response teams that have been formed. Orders for culling have been given. In fact, teams have already begun culling today. And, within 1 kilometer area of the epicenter, all the ducks, hens, eggs, etc. have been are to be destroyed and or culled. In fact, there's restrictions of movement of all these fowls, or movement or transport of all these fowls and eggs and manures and all in and around 12 kilometers from the epicenter of this radius. So this is what it is right now, perhaps the second time. And what is unfortunate yet again is it's again coming just as a roundup to the Christmas time, when perhaps the sale and the demand for ducks would be very high. And in fact, if you're speaking to the farmers, they say about how they were trying to raise these ducks specifically targeting the Christmas season, and it's of course come as a massive, massive blow to them.
As Chief Justice, Justice Ranjan Gogoi controversially decided to sit on a bench to hear allegations of sexual harassment against himself. Speaking to NDTV, he said, in retrospect, perhaps my participation on the bench hearing sexual harassment charges against was not correct.
Let's jump into what has been the most contentious part of your tenure, which you tackle squarely in the book, which was the charges of sexual harassment, which was leveled against you by a junior member of the Supreme Court. Now, you actually, when the charges came, you convened a hearing which you presided over. Doesn't that violate every principle of natural justice, that you preside over a hearing where you yourself are the accused?
In my book, you have two things so far as this chapter is concerned.
Yes.
You have the order passed on 20th of April.
Yes.
In the bench of which I was a member.
Yes.
I didn't sign the order. If you have read that order,
yes,
the order is a kind of an advice to the media to be restrained in reporting the incident.
But
one sec.
Sure.
So that is the order. There is no question of any effective order being passed, which has the effect of exonerating me, as people later.
Okay, I'll come to the order in a second, but I'm saying just starting off with the first principles, that you convene a hearing.
I was coming to that.
Yeah, where you yourself are the accused.
I was coming to that.
Yeah.
In my book, there is a sentence that in retrospect, perhaps my participation in the bench was not correct. I mentioned it. In hindsight.
That it was a mistake?
It's mentioned there. That it was not correct. But then there is also a line in the book.
Yes.
Chief Justices don't descend from heaven. 40 years of reputation.
Yes.
Built up over hard work.
Sure.
Is sought to be destroyed. You are required to take a call. You take a call. Some part of it goes wrong.
In some other news, regular commercial international flights will not resume till the 31st of January. That's what the government has announced amid a global alarm over the new Omicron variant of coronavirus. The ones under the air bubble agreements, however, will carry on as before. International flights were earlier scheduled to resume from the 15th of December. However, with the outbreak of the new Omicron variant in several nations, the country has now put brakes on its plans for international flight resumption.